Hey, Clay Blair, Boulevard Recording Academy. I wanted to continue my video series on bass sounds and focus on one of my favorites, which was actually the Geoff Emerick Sgt. Pepper's era Beatles bass sound. This is a Rickenbacker 4001 C64. It's a reissue of the bass that McCartney used throughout the Beatles and his Wings career. This is a 1966 Fender Showman in a matching cab with two 15-inch JBL D130s. The difference in this amp and what they were using in Abbey Road at the time was this is a little bit bigger, heftier, a little more headroom, but there were Showmans around during Sgt. Pepper's as well as Bassmans, and what they were doing is mixing a direct signal with the amp, but the amp technique is a little bit different than you're used to. Geoff Emerick used a C12 off the amp, anywhere from 5 to 8 feet. This is about between that. This is about 5 feet or so off the amp, and it's also in figure 8, so you get a bit of the room. It's a really neat sound. I actually use it a lot when I make records, and I'm going to show you in the control room in a minute what we're doing in there to combine the signal. So I'm back in the control room, and I kind of wanted to show you guys a little bit of what that sounds like. So basically, the direct injector, the DI, was invented at Abbey Road. The actual DI box is something that they had made for them by a guy named Ken Townsend. And so what Geoff would do is he would take a DI and an amp on Sgt. Pepper's, and he would blend the two, and he would compress them through an RS-124, which is the famous McCartney Abbey Road Alltech compressor. So what I got now is I got the Rick bass. I'm back in the control room. I've recorded myself a version of A Day in the Life, and I'm just going to play the bass up against it and let you guys hear what's going on. We have two Red 47 preamps going. They're bussed through the console through the RS-124, and what you're hearing is a blend of the DI and the amp. And I'm going to play along through different parts of the song, and then I'm going to show you some stuff at the end too. What I have going on right now for this song is kind of, it's a neck pickup with the tone rolled almost all the way off. So this whole, it's pretty dark. You listen to the record, you know, might be a little lighter, like it's too much. So it's a very fine line. A lot of people get confused because they think, oh no, it's the Hofner. But what he did a lot is he's palm muted. So like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, it sounds to me like it was both pickups, so I'm palm muting. So you can see it's really short, like the Hofner. But he muted. So same deal. Help from my friends was both pickups probably. So you can actually hear the room a bit in that. If you're, and on the recording too, you can hear a lot of the room. I'd say stuff like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It felt like it was more of a DI sound. You can almost bet yourself that if you hear room on the bass, there's room on the bass, and if it's a lot quieter on Sgt. Pepper's as far as the room goes, it's probably more of a DI blend. There's some common misconceptions about when the Rick was used, when the Hofner was used. There's not a single picture of a Hofner bass on the Sgt. Pepper's sessions. It was very much the Rick bass. And if you hear it and you love to mute. There's a lot of muting going on, which was, the sound of the Hofner. So it's kind of like he probably did it because he liked that sound, but he had the ability to let the notes ring out, which you hear on What Day in the Life when he does these big. When they ring out like that, you can't do that really with a Hofner, and I mean you can, it won't ring that long though. This is one of the techniques that I use a lot here when I make records at Boulevard Recording, and it's one of the techniques that I teach people as well when they come in and do the classes. My technique's slightly different than Geoff Emerick's technique because the room at Abbey Road is obviously different than my room, and you have to adjust a little bit, but I basically do the very same thing, but the distance is a little different. A lot of people find it really bizarre to pull a mic way off of a bass amp. And Geoff Emerick was quoted as saying he sometimes backed it up as far as 8 feet and he put it in figure 8. You probably will never ever hear of anyone putting a bass mic in figure 8 or anything else like that in figure 8. But he did it because they really like the sound of the room, and that's what I have going on here. You can hear the room. In a mix, it really sounds great. I gotta say, it's kind of something different. It's not something I think people are too used to these days with everybody, putting the mic right on the speaker or just having a DI, which are all great things, but I take the DI in the amp and I mute them, and what I do is I bus through 2 channels on the console, and the bus will hit the compressor. You can also do it in Pro Tools too. You can totally do a hardware insert and make a bus in Pro Tools and do whatever you want with it. And not touch your original DI and bass amp track if you want to go back to them and revisit them and use them differently. But I really like recording in the style of committing to something, which if I were doing this on tape with a band, we would definitely not take a DI and an amp. If this was the sound I was going for, this would be it, and we would live with it. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's one of the many out-of-the-box weird recording techniques that we've been teaching at Boulevard Recording Academy. I want you guys to come to the classes and learn some more of them. Sign up below at boulevardrecordingacademy.com, and we'll see you soon.